It is with pleasure that I welcome all of you to this event. But let me first and foremost welcome here the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, represented here by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, His Excellency Mr. George Akume. I welcome you, sir. Let me welcome the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, also represented here by His Excellency Umar Modibo, Special Advisor to the Vice President on Special Duties. I'd like to welcome the chairman of this event, former head of state. I was particularly moved during the national anthem, and I saw a man that is well above 90 years. He was still standing like a 27-year-old soldier. I welcome here General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, our chairman today. Let me welcome, if there was the Oratorial Olympics, this man will go there and win a gold medal. One of the finest brains that ever became vice president in Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCON. I'd like to also welcome here the former Chief of Staff to the former President, Professor Ibrahim Damari, is here with us. I welcome you. The former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, is here with us. I welcome you. The current Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, is also here with us. I welcome you. Let me welcome the former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the man whose oratorial power is beyond that of any master of ceremony in Nigeria. Alhaji Baba Gana Kingibe, I celebrate you, sir. Thank you very much. Let me welcome all of you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. But I will first and foremost, it is a rare thing for you to be out of power. And it's been probably 2 years. And you write a book, people are book launch weary to write a book and say, please come and launch this book for me. And the hall is this full. Garba Shehu, please stand up. Let's appreciate this man. Let's appreciate this man. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to welcome our royal fathers, members of the diplomatic corps, friends, colleagues, family members of the author, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with pleasure that I welcome all of you to the public presentation and launch of a beautiful book titled, According to the President, Lessons from a Presidential Spokesperson, or Spokesman. In the Nigerian political environment, since democracy started in 1999, we can count on our fingers the number of presidential spokespersons that we've heard. You can quickly recall the late Dr. Donye Okupe, the late Remi Oyo, Iman Niboro, Dr. Ruben Abati, Segun Adeniyi, and then the double chief and pastor Femi Adesina, and then the author, Garba Shehu. They're just very few, but they make the difference. As I also welcome the vice chairman of this event, Prince Nduka Obaegbena. So we're happy that they can find time to put their thoughts on paper and write wonderful books books that will be a guide to professionals and casual readers. But if you want to wax lyrical about the spokespersons, you could say that the spokesman could be depicted as a gatekeeper of truth. The spokesperson can carefully craft and deliver official news and narrative. Their voice, a polished shield used to deflect arrows of doubt. If you call them bridges over troubled waters, you'll be very right. In their carefully chosen words, we hear the echoes of our own aspirations and the promise of a better tomorrow. And those are the spokespeople. And this man who's the author is a preeminent member of that very elite class. I'd like to welcome all of you, but to tell us why we're here and set the tone for this event, I'd like to welcome a man who is also an author himself. I called him Double Chief, and he knows why, but he's also a pastor. He wrote a book earlier which was motivational. He called it The Eagle in You. And then, like his brother, he wrote another book called Working with Buhari. I'd like to welcome here Femi Additional.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My assignment is to, in a few minutes, tell us why we are here. We are here because yet another book has been written on our principal and former president of the country, Muhammadu Buhari. A number of books have been written on him. Like the MC said, I have written. When we were in government, some people wrote, and now my colleague in the media office of the president, Mallam Garba Shehu, has written one. Why this rush of books? We have not even seen anything, because many, many more will come. Books should be written because human memory can be short. Therefore, a number of things need to be documented and must be documented. That is why it is needful to write books, particularly on a personality like President Buhari, who has served the country honestly and selflessly. It is said that Abraham Lincoln is the most documented American president. That as of today, there are between 15,000 and 16,000 books written on Abraham Lincoln. One president. One president. And it is good to have things like that because many generations of Americans to come will have things to read about Abraham Lincoln. Don't be surprised if in the years and the decades and epochs to come, we have many more books on President Buhari because he is like an elephant. When you touch an elephant, you account for that part of the animal you have touched. If you touch the trunk, your account is going to be different from that of the man who touched the body. And if another man touches the tail, his account will be different from that of the man who touched the body. So, many more books will come about President Buhari. He had two spokespersons, myself and Mallam Garba. If you look at our books, our two books, you'll find that they are in different directions. Mine was experience working with the man. And Mallam has also written in another direction. Many other books in different other directions will still come. So we are here today to launch this book by Mallam Garba Shehu, and I would like to thank everyone that is here. And I will just say, please, let's write on about a man who is iconic, about a man who is legendary, and about a man whose image looms large. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor Chief Femi Adesina. They are both twins given birth to by the administration, and there is no surgery that can keep them apart. Let's put our hands together for Femi Adesina, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'd like to welcome here Professor Issa Ibrahim Pantami, former Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, that is here with us. I'd like to welcome you. And the Vice Chairman of our event today, Prince Nduka Obagbena, Chairman of Arise News and These Day newspapers, is here with us looking dapper. I welcome you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Bayo Nonuga is also here, I understand, the current special advisor to the President on Media. I welcome you, sir. I welcome you. Let me welcome Mr. Sunday Dairi, he's also here. The former governor of Ekiti State and former chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, His Excellency Kaode Fayemi, is also here with us. I welcome you. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while Mr. Femi Adesina was talking, he referred to His Excellency President Buhari as iconic. The iconic tag will also extend to his vice president at that time, one of the finest legal minds in the world. Amazing, loyal, and a team player. He's here with us this morning, and it's my honor and pleasure to welcome here Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCON.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to very quickly recognize and salute the chair of this occasion and former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Yakubu Gowon, GCON, the representative of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, in the person of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, His Excellency Senator George Akume, the representative of the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, in the person of His Excellency Umar Modibo, the Honorable Minister of Information, other ministers present, special advisors, former governors present, former ministers present, and I just saw walking in the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. I must tell you something about former vice presidents and such individuals. As you know, sometimes we get it all wrong. We say that, for instance, I will be referred to as the immediate past vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As for the person before me, who would be His Excellency Namadi Sambo, he would be referred to as the former vice president of Nigeria. All those before us will be referred to as the one-time vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who is seated here, is the one-time. I welcome you, sir, and also to say what a pleasure to see you, and also to know that you are healthy and well and doing so wonderfully year after year. I'm honored to welcome you all to the launch of the book, According to the President, by Mallam Garba Shehu, former Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communication. We are especially honored to have with us today the General Yakubu Gowon, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who at age 90 still looks like he could still win a 100-meter dash. I'm aware, sir, that you were to go abroad before you got this invitation, but you very graciously postponed that trip to be here to celebrate with our friend and brother, Mallam Garba Shehu. Garba Shehu has written a very important book, According to the President, a presidential spokesman's experience. And the book is important, not just because it details his eyewitness accounts of some of the most history-worthy moments in our national annals. And he crisscrosses two different administrations. But not just that. I think more importantly, he has been true to his heart and to his calling as a teacher. Many may not know that Mallam Garba, while he was editor of the Triumph newspaper in Kano, was also doing something close to his heart, teaching journalism, aspects of journalism at his alma mater, the Bayero University. So in writing this book, he says categorically that he set out to write not an autobiography, but a textbook for those who will in the future be media advisors and practitioners in the prestigious but often difficult, sometimes treacherous terrain of politics and governance at the highest levels. By writing a textbook based on his experiences, both good and bad, he spares the wise who will follow him the burdens of learning by experience. The popular adage, experience is the best teacher, is, as you know, only a half-truth. It is actually the shortened form of a Welsh proverb, experience is the best teacher for a fool. The wise learn from history. History is a kinder and gentler teacher than experience. So he gives a blow-by-blow account of the inside story and several inside stories, including the conflict that developed between Vice President Abubakar Atiku and President Olusegun Obasanjo. And I'm not going to go into any of that. I'm not reviewing the book, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot to be said today about all of that. And how, what he says, how he, as a media person for Vice President Atiku, in navigating that debacle, he lost his job. And it tells the story of how one evening he got a call from NTA and was told, "We are announcing your resignation tonight." And he remonstrated that he had not resigned. The voice said, "Well, we have your letter of resignation here." And yes, his resignation was announced that evening. The job of the vice president, and just reflecting a bit on the conflict between the vice president and the president, I think that the only other vice president who is here may agree with me that the job of a vice president is possibly the most difficult in the world. It was His Excellency Umar Ganduje, former chairman of the APC, in his famous work, Deputizing, who humorously describes the conundrum that deputies face. And he once said to me, he said, when you're a deputy or vice, you're in a difficult position. And then he would pause, like a great storyteller that he is, and then say, every action you take is likely to be misinterpreted. Not necessarily by your boss, but by the numerous people around him. He says, if you humbly walk behind your boss, they will say, look at him. He's not cooperating with his boss. If you walk by his side, they will say, ha, see this man. He thinks he's equal to the boss. And if you walk in front of him, they will say, he thinks he's better than the boss. The account of Garba Shehu about all of the events surrounding that particular conflict, I'm sure you will find incredibly interesting reading. But the bulk of the book is about his stewardship as presidential spokesman, co-presidential spokesman of President Muhammadu Buhari. And that is the bulk of the book. As we've heard, and we've already heard from his, at the time, the special advisor and spokesman to the president, Pastor Femi Adesina. They worked together very closely. And you would find in the book that his depiction of President Muhammadu Buhari and his tenure comes from a different perspective. And I must say, it sheds a completely different light on the way that he related to President Muhammadu Buhari. I'm not going to spend any time, as I said, trying to analyze that or say anything about it, only to say, as Femi Adesina has said, that President Buhari, there will be several more books written about him, several. We have read Working with Buhari. We will soon see Laughing with Buhari. And today we're seeing According to Buhari. I know that this particular occasion is one where we celebrate him and where we will also celebrate his tenure. Garba Shehu's book, I must say, is a good analysis of those times. It's a fair and objective analysis of those times. And he spares very little in terms of detail and in terms of analysis. So I welcome you all to this occasion, and I trust that you will have a very pleasant time, not just listening to experiences, but also appreciating an era of which much still will be written. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can we put our hands together one more time for the immediate past, according to him, Vice President of Nigeria? And I'd like to welcome here our father and an amazing former Vice President of Nigeria, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, GSON. I welcome you, sir. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Also here with us, I'd like to welcome Elijah Dansido Danu Sadauna Dutse, who is here with us. And also, I'd like to welcome General Bayomi Gabriel Olonishakin, CFR, former Chief of Defense Staff, that is also here with us. Thank you very much for coming. Let me welcome the representative of the Katsina State Government, His Excellency the Deputy Governor Alhaji Farouk Lawan, and the Jigawa State Right Honorable Dan Giatin, Speaker House of Assembly of Jigawa State, is also here. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me now go to our chairman, former head of state, elder statesman. He loves to pray. He's humble in spirit, amazingly strong. At 91, he can still enroll in the Nigerian Army. I'd like to welcome our chairman, General Yakubu Gowon.
Thank you very much. Well done. Thank you, sir. Well done. Thank you. His Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFR, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, being represented by Senator George Akume, Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Your Excellency, or His Excellency, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, being represented. His Excellency, General Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, former President in absentia, being represented by Professor Yemi Osinbajo, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Executive governors here present, distinguished senators and honorable members of the House of Representatives, honorable ministers, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, former Chief of Staff to the President, the guest speaker, former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Barrister Boss Mustafa, the book reviewer, Professor Umar A. Pate, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, there are so many important people here, and I think I should have just said we should abide by the protocol set out and greetings set out by the Master of Ceremony and Uncle, Mr. Ebere Young. He has said it most beautifully. And I think we should abide by that. So if I have not mentioned any important person that is here, I think we should abide by the protocol of the anchor Mr. Ebere Young. So it is indeed a great joy and pleasure for me to be here today to chair this important event, the launch of a book titled, According to the President, Lessons from a Presidential Spokesman's Experience, written by Mallam Garba Shehu, OON. I'm aware that this is the second book being written on General Buhari, authored by his personal aides since he left power in 2023. The first one was working with Buhari, and we just heard from Mr. Femi Adesina, OON. This one further goes to show the loyalty, commitment, and the way Buhari's aides hold him in high esteem during and even after leaving office. When I was first approached to chair this event by the former Chief of Staff to the President, I had finalized arrangements to travel out of the country by this date. However, considering the deep respect I have for General Buhari and his aides, I couldn't but change my travel plan to accommodate this event. Further, the former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Barrister Boss Mustafa, CFR, visited me in person to deliver a copy of the book. There was no way I could have declined the invitation when the boss himself came visiting. You don't say no to the boss. In my years of service as head of state, I understood and appreciated the important role that communication plays in government and nation building. A president's actions, policies, and programs, no matter how noble or well conceived, must be clearly communicated to the citizens, to the public. This is where the role of hard-working and committed presidential spokesmen like Mallam Garba Shehu is most appreciated. During his 8 years presidency, Buhari tried his best to contend with the overwhelming problems. One of such is the security situation in the country, in Nigeria. The officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces, and please excuse me sort of making this because I think I belong to that group, where Buhari tried his best to contend with the overwhelming problems, and one of such is the security situation in Nigeria. And the officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces and the other security agencies must be commended for their commended for their role and
be commended for their role in this respect. Recently, I went to Kaduna for this 162 Army Day celebrations, where the Chief of Army Staff, on behalf of the armed forces, reaffirmed their commitment to fight and defend the sovereignty of our nation. As Nigerians, we must wholeheartedly support our armed forces, and as they risk their lives to keep us alive, we must not allow insurgency or insecurity to threaten the corporate existence of our nation. I know General Buhari to be a staunch believer of the Nigerian project. I know him as a person not inclined to worldly or materialistic overtures. No matter the misconceptions about General Buhari, you can take away the fact that he has the firm interest of Nigeria at heart. I also know that he will do everything to keep his integrity intact. If the truth must be told, General Buhari is a man, of austere lifestyle. I was therefore not surprised when the author of the book narrated an incident that rightly depicted the General Buhari that I know. According to Garba Shehu, shortly after being sworn in as President and Commander-in-Chief, General Buhari was informed of the need to increase the budget for catering services in the villa. He then asked what the existing budget was. When they told him it was 10 million naira for the State House, including the Vice President, guest houses and banquets in honor of visiting leaders, he screamed, "Wow," and asked what that even that amount, 10 million, is too much, and it should be drastically reduced. I don't know whether the Vice President can confirm this. The ex-Vice President can confirm this. And, well, it is not in my place to make comments on the book, as that will be done by the book reviewer, Professor Pate, and the guest speaker, Barrister Mustafa, Boss Mustafa, who I know is also a co-Buhari loyalist. He is better endowed to speak as guest speaker because he was part of it all. Mallam Garba Shehu has been consistent in defending his master without wavering. He takes the bullet of criticisms and misconception for his boss. I know General Buhari must be proud with the crop of staff that served him with such commitment. To exude such loyalty, I believe General Buhari must have given them the freedom and support to work and defend his policies without any encumbrance. May I thank Mallam Shehu also for this invaluable and compelling book, a compelling work. You did a great work in sharing with us the intricacies of what it means to be the voice of a president. Indeed, this book is a blueprint or roadmap to the present and future presidential aides on how to relate and defend the action of policies of the president, as it provides deeper understanding of the complexities of governance. It is practical guide to students and public relation practitioners on the nuances of public engagement. I therefore call on the Nigerians to get copies of this book and read it with an open mind while reflecting on the lessons it offers. At this juncture, and on a personal note, I must commend General Buhari publicly for his disposition during his tenure. He made himself very accessible to me and to all, and was always willing to listen to every advice or suggestions one may offer, one may proffer at any point in time. May I take this opportunity to salute and thank all staff that have served, all leaders, past and present, and all our civil and public servants, past and present, for their loyalty and faithful service to the nation. As I conclude, I want to once again congratulate Mallam Garba Shehu on this remarkable milestone. May the contents of this book foster more effective communication in our public service and ultimately contribute to the continued progress and unity of our beloved country, Nigeria. Thank you all for coming, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
That is our chairman. Can we generate an applause that sounds like 21 gun salutes? We appreciate you, sir. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for service to nation. Thank you. And I love your last statement that made this book be the very beginning of wonderful communication in the country. Thank you very much. General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, former president, we appreciate you, statesman, elder statesman. Thank you very much. I'd like to also quickly welcome a few other people that are here. Sadia Umar Farouk, former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development in Nigeria, is here with us. Welcome you. Dr. Chris Ngige, former Minister of Labor, I welcome you. General Tukru Buratai, former Chief of Army Staff and former Ambassador to the Republic of Benin, is also here. I welcome you. Abdulaziz, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Print Media, is also here. And let me welcome Bashir Bauer, former EFCC Chairman, also here. Some of our Chief Launchers, Alhaji Mallam Garba, Chairman, Trobel Nigeria Limited. He told me that his bullion van is parked outside, representing the Chief Launcher. Baba Inu Baba is also here representing Alhaji Mangal. Is it 2 bullion vans you brought? Thank you very much for coming. And the representative of Senator Ibikunle Amosu is also here. Let me also welcome here the former governor of Kaduna State, His Excellency Nasiru El-Rufai. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome the man that the general called the boss, the former secretary to the government of the Federation. Some people called him the engine room, the brain box, the man around whom everything revolved. But he's here with us. Let me welcome here Mr. Boss Gida Mustafa.
Some of us are vertically endowed, so I have to adjust the microphone. Thank you. Your Excellency, the chairman of this occasion, General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, and the deputy chairman, Prince Nduka, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, ably represented by my senior brother and immediate successor, distinguished Senator George Akume, CON, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, ably represented by Dr. Umar Modibo, Senior Special Assistant to the President, Your Excellency, Professor Yemi Osibajo, Vice President 2015 to 2023, Alhaji Abubakar Atiku, GCON, Vice President 1999 to 2007, former governors here present, and the Deputy Governor of Katsina, Honorable Ministers serving and former Secretary to the Government, Ambassador Babaganaki Ingwe, GCON, Chief of Staff to President Buhari, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, CFR, Honorable Speaker of Jigawa State House of Assembly, the book reviewer, our chief launchers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The theme of this lecture, which I have been asked to deliver, President Muhammadu Buhari's contribution to national development, is both a reflection on leadership and an exploration of the institutions, policies, and principles that defined his presidency. While we are gathered to present Garba Shehu's According to the President, this lecture does not adopt that book's title, but rather complements it by situating the administration's advancement agenda within the broader architecture of governance and reform. Let me begin with a moment that shaped the trajectory of the 2015 Buhari presidential campaign. In the lead up to the 2015 general elections, a small but consequential meeting was held to discuss key appointments into the emerging structure of the Buhari presidential campaign. It was at that meeting that Garba Shehu's name was tabled as a prospective director of media and publicity. And I'm glad that Mala Nasru El-Rufai is here in this meeting. He was part of that decision making. And I humbly made that suggestion. And that suggestion gave birth to the appointment of Mallam Garba Shehu as the Director of Media and Publicity. The decision was based on merit. He brought a long-established reputation in political communication, editorial leadership, and public engagement. More importantly, he was considered as someone who could speak with clarity while remaining anchored in institutional discipline. From that moment, Mr. Shehu became an integral part of the political infrastructure that eventually shaped the Buhari administration. His transition from campaign spokesperson to presidential media advisor was a logical progression, a signal continuity of message and fidelity to the original orientation of the presidency. And arguably, President Buhari's public life was marked not just by official positions, but by a strong connection with many Nigerians. His reputation for integrity, as attested to by General Gawan, who was his boss, discipline, and national commitment earned him lasting support, especially in the northern parts of the country and later the south, and gave him that nickname of Say My Gaskiya. This support was built on earned social trust rather than political expediency, and it gave his administration the room to pursue difficult reforms in areas like security and the economy with a degree of public backing that was unusual in Nigerian political history. This lecture has been structured into three major parts: the introduction, with which I'm dealing with now, a reflection of evolutionary and exemplary leadership, and President Buhari's legacy 2015 to 2023, and the concluding part of the lecture. Let me start with the first segment. This lecture on President Buhari's contribution to national development reflects a lifetime of committed public service. His career has been shaped by national duty, from his early military service to his tenure as military governor of the northeastern state and thereafter Borno State. A lot of the Gen Zs don't even know that Buhari served as governor of Borno State, but he served for a very short while, where he carried out foundational reforms during the post-Civil War recovery, and later as Federal Commissioner for Petroleum and Natural Resources between 1976 and 1978. Under his supervision, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, initiated key pipeline and depot infrastructure and approved contracts for the Kaduna and Warri refineries, laying the foundation for Nigeria's downstream oil sector. As executive chairman of the Petroleum Special Trust Fund, he oversaw one of Nigeria's most impactful delivery-focused programs, directing resources towards roads, education, primary health care, and essential medicine during a time of physical constraint. These roles reinforced his belief in infrastructure-led growth and disciplined public service. His service as Nigeria's head of state and decades after as democratically elected president provided continuity to his earlier reformist instincts. In his dual role As President and Minister of Petroleum Resources, he supervised major energy sector reforms, culminating in the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021. He also advanced gas infrastructure through flagship projects such as the Jakarta-Kaduna-Kano pipeline and the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline under his decade of gas strategy. Beyond formal office, he chaired the Board of Trustees of the Katsina State Development Foundation, Gidaunian Jihar Katsina, for nearly 2 decades, focusing on grassroots advancement and empowerment. These sectoral contributions in energy, infrastructure, health, and education reflect a consistent commitment to Nigerians' advancement priorities, provide context for understanding the values and the logic that later shaped his presidency. Before turning to that presidency, it is important to recognize the former president's role in reshaping Nigeria's political trajectory. In early 2013, as the leader of the Congress for Progressive Change, CPC, President Buhari formally requested and supported the creation of the CPC Merger Committee, part of a broader coalition building process that brought together the ACN, the party under which I served as the Deputy National Chairman as of that time. We also had our own transition or merger committee, the AMPP, and a faction of the ABGA, and the elements of the ruling party through the breakaway new PDP group. His endorsement and participation, along with other party leaders, such as the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Ali Modu Sharif, who was the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the AMPP, lent credence and credibility and direction to the merger, helping to unify disparate parties' factions under the banner of the All Progressive Congress. That coalition building paved the way for the first democratic defeat of an incumbent ruling party in Nigeria's history. President Buhari's integrity, national stature, and disciplined messaging were central to that breakthrough. Not only that, for us in the ACN, I do not intend to stir any controversy, but I will make bold to state this, that the merger in 2013 was midwife to present a Buhari or create a Buhari presidency. Because we looked at the statistics of the votes that were coming to the table. In the 2003 election against Obasanjo, Buhari raked in 2.7 million votes. In the 2007 election with Shehu Yar'Adua, 12.7 million votes. In 2007, after the PDP unleashed its machinery, it came to 6.6 million votes against Yar'Adua. In 2011, it went back to 12.2 million votes. And when we were conceptualizing the merger, we said, what will give us a head start? And obviously, it was in the back of our consciousness that a merger with the CPC, though the CPC at that time had only one state, the ACN had 6 states, the AMPP had 3 states. But when you sum out the total votes that gave us the presidency in 2015, the aggregate of the total votes were 15.4 million votes. So basically, what we brought to the table, the other parties that were in the merger, in addition to Buhari's 12.2 million votes, were 3.2 million votes. I do not intend to stir any controversy, but I am I am saying that that was the most realistic and pragmatic thing that we needed to do. I was the deputy national chairman of the ACN then. So I anchored the transition. My colleagues in the ACN are here. FIME is here. What we did and the decisions that we took was to provide or to produce a Buhari presidency. Buhari formally requested, okay, I've done that. His endorsement assisted in that. No account of Buhari's President Buhari's tenure would be complete without acknowledging the extended periods he spent on medical leave. These moments were politically delicate, were also telling of his leadership philosophy and personality. Rather than disrupt governance like we saw in the previous administration, he allowed the constitutional order to function as intended, delegating authority to the vice president and demonstrating a rare commitment to institutional stability. While some perceived as a slowing of momentum, these periods revealed his preference for rule-based delegation and his continued confidence in the systems his administration had built. It was leadership by structure. As Secretary to the Government of the Federation, I had the responsibility of coordinating the machinery of government under his leadership. The role offered direct exposure to the administration's internal logic, interministerial coordination and institutional reforms. Today's lecture, therefore, is not a catalogue of achievements. It is a reflection on how the Buhari administration approached governance, its reform logic, institutional priorities, and long-term intent. No single lecture can exhaustively unpack the complexity of those years. Rather, this presentation offers a considered overview of key interventions and the thinking behind them. The period in view was one of recalibration, characterized by policy consistency and a deliberate effort to rebuild state capacity, outcomes that merit rigorous policy and historic scrutiny. The aim here is to situate the administration within the larger arc of Nigeria's developmental journey, focusing on what was done, how it was done, and why it matters. President Buhari's legacy, May 2015 to May 2023. When President Buhari assumed office in May 2015, Nigeria was facing acute macroeconomic and security challenges. Crude oil prices had collapsed, revenues had declined sharply, and public institutions struggled with credibility. Boko Haram insurgency had escalated in the northeast, testing federal unity. The administration responded by prioritizing fiscal discipline, capital spending, and institutional reforms to restore stability and rebuild trust. The Strategic Implementation Plan, SIP, served as a short-term stabilization tool, followed by the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, 2017 to 2020, which laid out a strategy for infrastructure, industrialization, and public sector reform. The ERGP hosted investor confidence with clear policy targets. In 2021, the administration launched the National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy, aiming to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within 10 years. Chaired by the Vice President and supported by governors and ministers, and the private sector. The MPRGS adopted a multi-pronged strategy, including microeconomic stability, industrialization, redistributive programs, and public service reform. Ladies and gentlemen, the administration's second term in 2019 marked a shift to evidence-led governance. It established the Policy Programs and Projects Audit Committee to review first-term outcomes and set new priorities, culminating in the 9 priority areas launched in August 2019. This covered microeconomy, stability, food security, energy, infrastructure, industrialization, human capital, social inclusion, governance, and security. These priorities informed the medium-term National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 and Nigeria Agenda 2050, which introduced long-range planning anchored in demographics, sectoral linkages, and performance benchmarks. Both frameworks emerged from wide consultation across government and partners. There are numerous projects that were undertaken by the Buhari administration. I won't want to bore you with them, but suffices to mention strategic prioritization of transformative legacy projects, such as the Second Niger Bridge, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Highway, and the Wari-Itakwe Rail Line, each improving mobility, logistics, and regional connectivity. Several of these projects are still ongoing. Hundreds of kilometers were covered by road infrastructure, and I believe that the current government is doing its best to ensure that these roads become functional and usable for the communities. Ladies and gentlemen, one other area in which Buhari's leadership came to the forefront was in the management of the COVID-19 pandemic, which posed one of Nigeria's most complex governance challenges. Under President Buhari, the response was guided by science, fiscal intervention, and coordination. And that earned him the nomenclature of the ECOWAS champion on COVID-19. He worked with regional leaders on border protocols, preparedness, and equitable vaccine access. His steady diplomacy positioned Nigeria as a regional anchor during a time of great uncertainty. The Presidential Task Force, which I chaired, provided high-level oversight, eliminating bureaucratic delays, ensuring federal and subnational alignment, testing infrastructure expanded swiftly with over 200 labs activated. The NCDC led on surveillance and diagnostics, supported by real-time data and public health communication that maintained citizen trust. I can say with every degree of certainty that in the course of the over 1 year that I chaired the national response on COVID-19, we had unfettered access to President Buhari. We had political support that we needed. I remember one of the days when I went and briefed him, and I told him that I was shutting down the country. He gazed at me strangely, as if, where did you get that power from? I said, it's delegated authority, sir. When you appointed me as chairman of the COVID-19 response team, which had a multi-level approach, you gave us the power. We've discussed everything. The Minister of Aviation has spoken to the aviation authorities for the necessary NOTAPS rules to go out. The Minister of Health has done his bit, and for that reason, we have taken a decision to shut down the country. He said, have you thought about security? I said, yes, I've met with the security officials, I've met with the Chief of Army Staff, with the retinue of different officers, and we factored that. Because the shutting down was not only across our borders, we were also shutting down within the country. And he was concerned about the daily earnings of our people. So he wanted clarity of what we intended to do. And we gave him that clarity. And for that reason, he decided that we should go ahead. And we did it. And to the glory of God, we have done so well with our response to the extent that several countries have copied it, and they still copy it. And we have received accolades from international organizations like the World Health Organization, the United Nations, as Nigeria's response being one of the best globally. So I think it is part of the leadership that he provided that gave us that. Social interventions included cash transfers. Over 1 million vulnerable households. We trained digital workers, targeted SMEs with relief, COVID mobilized. It was multi-sectoral and multi-level in terms of the work that we did. Under President Buhari, institutionally, the administration pursued reforms through executive orders and legislative action. Executive orders 13 and 14 introduced performance contracting and institutionalized the presidential transition process. The latter stands out as a pioneering move. It repositioned transitions from ceremonial handovers to structured rule-based processes that reinforce national stability and continuity in governance. In doing so, it created a new standard of transition that has outlived his office, but still remains as an instrument of shared goals and institutional trust. Major legislative milestones include the Petroleum Industrial Act and 4 finance acts aligning fiscal policy with economic strategy. The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council oversaw over 100 reforms that improved Nigeria's ease of doing business rankings. In the digital economy, broadband coverage expanded to nearly all the local governments under President Buhari, while the National Digital Policy and Strategy provided a coherent framework. The NIM-SIM integration strengthened identity systems and local content policies. Under President Buhari, Nigeria experienced an unprecedented surge in military modernization, with asset acquisition reaching its peak across armed forces. In April of 2018, he approved $1 billion intervention for military equipment. And by 2022, the defense budget had grown to 1.2 trillion, with significant capital directed toward modern platforms and logistics. This represented the most intense military build-up since the return to democracy, reflecting an urgent response to security challenges and a disciplined strategy for operational renewal. Education did not suffer. Let me come to an area where I believe history will judge President Buhari well. Nigeria's foreign policy under President Buhari combined pragmatic diplomacy with a clear ambition to reassert the country's leadership across Africa and on the global stage. His tenure saw strategic appointments that elevated Nigeria's visibility in multilateral institutions. Most notably, Nigeria successfully led a re-election campaign for Dr. Akinwumi Adesina as president of the African Development Bank, despite international headwinds and a contested review process. Under his leadership, Akinwumi's leadership for 10 years, the bank's authorized capital expanded from 93 billion to 318 billion, directly impacting 565 million lives through transformative investments in infrastructure, energy, and food systems. In 2015, Professor Bernard Orama assumed office as president of the Afro-Exim Bank under President Buhari's leadership, growing the bank's portfolio from under 5 billion to over 37 billion by 2024, and strengthening Africa's trade finance architecture. Amina J. Mohammed, who served as Minister of Environment under President Buhari, was appointed United Nations Deputy Secretary General in 2017 and reappointed in 2022, advancing Nigeria's global standing in development and climate diplomacy. The assertive posture continued with the election of Ambassador Tijani Muhammad Bade as President of the 74th United Nations General Assembly in 2019, the first Nigerian to hold that role since Joseph Garba in a period of over 30 years. We never went back there until Nigeria gave the maximum support that Bade required to be able to assume that office. In 2021, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala became the first African and the first woman to lead the World Trade Organization. Her tenure had been defined by institutional reform and renewed confidence, and underscored by her early reappointment in November 2024. The world was not to wait. They were eager to get her reappointed. They appointed her way ahead of time. Her tenure is supposed to elapse I think in September of this year. Beyond these high-level appointments, Nigeria deepened multilateral agreements with ECOWAS, the AU, and the UN, while forging bilateral partnerships to strengthen infrastructure financing, technology transfer, and regional trade. Under Buhari's leadership, Nigeria's diplomacy became more deliberate, reinforcing the country's role as a continental power and a credible actor in global affairs. In the same vein, he went ahead before leaving office to sign and ratify the African Continental Free Trade Zone Agreement. The Buhari administration imprint lies not only in reforms it pursued, but in systems it established to deliver and sustain impact. Sectoral efforts in nutrition and several other fields of endeavor were undertaken. In the area of tax reform, Buhari instituted a tax reform before he left office. As a matter of fact, the expansion that is being done under the Tinubu administration is quite commendable. And he has now consolidated by the new laws that have been signed to strengthen coordination across federal and state levels, aimed at improving efficiency, reducing evasion, and advancing fiscal sustainability. In local governance, the Buhari administration initiated efforts towards fiscal autonomy through Executive Order Number 10 in 2020, aimed at enabling direct allocations to local governments in line with constitutional provisions. Though the order was later struck down by the courts, it set a precedent that gained legal force in 2014, when the same courts, through the Supreme Court, upheld the right of the local governments to receive allocations directly from the Federation account as challenged by the current administration. Under the Tinubu administration, institutional reforms have also continued. The Central Delivery Coordinating Unit evolved into the Central Resource Delivery and Coordination Unit, retaining its mandate to track and support executive priorities. Another notable legacy of the Buhari administration's reform is the Federal Civil Service reform that were instituted. It is indeed heartwarming to note that Nigeria has recently gazetted the operation procedure for trade under the AFTA. The concrete steps towards implementation reinforces the foundational work led during this regime. I have prepared a document that I will pass across to Mallam Garba, which he will circulate, that contains all these details. I've not been able to go through them for want of time, and I do not want to bore you because the business of the day is to really launch these books and make sure that every Nigerian lays his hand on it. But let me conclude. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, President Muhammad Buhari was not drawn to the theater of power, but to its quiet burden of responsibility. He governed with duty over drama, conviction over applause. He will be remembered not only for performance, but for principles, for anchoring governance in systems that endure. he led with a sense of time greater than his tenure, knowing that national progress is not a sprint, nor a solitary marathon, but a relay across generations. Each administration inherits unfinished work and must carry it forward with clarity and conviction. In this sense, Buhari's leadership was not about finality, but about setting things in motion, reforms that could outlast him, institutions that could withstand political tides, and a temperament that reminded the state of its quiet obligation to its citizens. The book, according to President, offers us not a portrait of power, but a vantage point into how a man entrusted with the weight of a nation bore it with measured intent. It is a record of words, yes, but beneath those words lie choices, silences, struggles, and an enduring faith in Nigeria's promise. And so, as we reflect today, let it not only be merely to remember, but to recommit, to see governance not as the triumph of the will, but as the careful tending of a shared future. Buhari did his bit. The baton has been passed to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFF. And history, as always, waits not for perfection, but for perseverance. I thank you all for listening, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, and his presentation is really the presentation of a boss. Let's put our hands together one more time for him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to recognize and welcome some of our people that are here. Dr. Hajo Sani OON, Ambassador of Nigeria to UNESCO, is here with us, represented by Dr. Abdullahi Mahmoud Garangabas. The SA media to the former President Goodluck Jonathan, MNIPR, is also here with us. I'd like to welcome Princess Gloria Akabundo, former coordinator, Auda NEPAD. Thank you very much for the service rendered while serving under President Buhari. Honorable Ari Muhammad Abdulamin, Chairman House Committee on Traditional Institutions from Nasarawa State, is here. Mr. Adeleke Adewolu, former Executive Commissioner, Stakeholder Engagement at the NCC. Barrister Ismail Ahmad, Executive Chairman, Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, and Dr. Mahmoud Mohammed, former Minister of Agriculture, Professor Mohammed Bello Abubakar, former MD CEO, Galaxy Blackbone. All of you are here to honor your brother and friend, Garba Shehu. Thank you very much for coming. Let me also welcome Alhaji Yao Darazo, SSA to the President on Political Matters, and the Alhaji Ali M. Ali DG Nan. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, of all the schools that our author attended, I think the school that made the most impact on him is Bariwa College. The principles, the core principles from that school is about discipline, is about teamwork, excellence, and reputation. Bariwa College taught him that hard work and commitment will make you succeed. No wonder the motto of the school says, "He who strives shall succeed." Let me welcome the author now, Mallam Garba Shehu.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my highest honor to stand before you to speak about why I wrote this book. But this enormous get-together, gathering of people, no, it's not owed to me, it's owed to Muhammadu Buhari. Can I beg that each one of us, depending on their religions, say a 10-second prayer. May Allah restore President Muhammadu Buhari's health. 10 seconds, please. Thank you. May the God Almighty accept. I'm not going to go, to recognitions, but by necessity, there are a few that I just have to make. Please forgive me. I have to take a little more time. Excellency General Yakubu Gowon, the chairman of this occasion, who, as he said, actually deferred his summer holiday. He had gone on holiday from about June and doesn't come back until shortly before his birthday every year in October. Here he is with us. We're deeply honored by this. General, they mentioned Bariwa College, and I'm privileged to have attended Bariwa College as you did. Because for us, you are the personification of all that is good, of the values that Bariwa College represented. When I was in junior class, you visited as the commander-in-chief, as head of state. Something happened, I don't know why. I found myself in a picture in between you and Governor Rotimi, who accompanied you to Bariwa College on that day. After you had left, the pictures were put on display in front of the dining hall. Before I got to the dining hall to eat my food, everyone who saw me was screaming, "Come and see, you are in the same picture with General Gowon. You are in the same picture with General." So it's amazing, this life that I'm seated under the same roof. This mighty gentleman, taller than a windmill. It's a privilege. It's also a privilege that the number one citizen of the country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is here adequately represented. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for me, people can say whatever they want to say. As Buhari's agent, I had been sent a number of times to Bola Ahmed Tinubu to find explanations, to find support for some of our communication issues. Because then, and I believe up to today, President Tinubu has this country's biggest media assets, and he has never failed to come to our aid. So, and it is not by coincidence that he chose Senator George Akume to represent him. And by the way, I hope that the former governor of Benue, when he reads the book, sue me. I hope he will like the picture of him that I have in that book. But Senator Akume was, if you will recall, actually I was one of the campaign managers. His campaign managers when he wanted to be Senate President in 2015. And I also want to say, I want to skip His Excellency Vice President Atiku Abubakar, because I'll come back to him. His Excellency Vice President Oshibanjo, the intellectual powerhouse. And by coincidence, he has an equally intelligent wife, Her Excellency Dolapo. And I used to think that if Professor Oshibanjo wasn't professor of law. He wasn't into the calling of religion. He and his wife would have been fantastic nuclear engineers. And they would have given this country a very early time, a very early nuclear bomb. Would have passed that stage a long time ago. But he led us and we learned so much from him. And I want to say something I think that is being skipped in the order of protocol. His Excellency Baba Gana Kingibe is also a Vice President of Nigeria. By the virtue of the recognition by President Muhammadu Buhari of the June 12 election as having produced a president for Nigeria and a vice president. So both himself and Chief MKO Abdullah are deserving of all the honor that is due to former presidents and vice presidents. Let me go to the book. Why did I write it? And again, I hope I'm not going to be accused of taking from Professor Oshibajo's calling. Muslims are encouraged to read widely. The Lord God in the Bible wanted to send someone. In Bible, Isaiah 6:8, he said, "Whom shall I send?" And the journalist stepped forward and said, "Here I am, send me." Not knowing what lied ahead. Some of us who chose journalism as profession, we didn't know that it was a bed with bombs beneath it. This is illustrated by one small story that I will tell. A gentleman and his wife took their 7-year-old child to a shop. As they were going around, mother saw 2 sweaters which she liked for this 7-year-old. Apparently, there was no money to pay for this. So, noticing that she was not being looked at, she picked 2 and tucked them in her bag. Her husband saw her, but shopkeeper didn't see. So they went home. Mommy was in the kitchen preparing food. And so the father looked at this little child and said to him, "Your mother is a thief." So the little boy got so enraged and dashed into the kitchen and was shouting at mother, "You are a thief. Why did you steal sweaters? I will not use them. You must take them back." So he took the sweaters from home and went out, back to the shop, or maybe he just dumped them somewhere else and came back. In growing up to his adulthood, this little boy said he hated his father, not his mother, for telling him that his mother was a thief. As journalists, we get into a lot of trouble, not because it's our own issue, but because we speak for some others. And that's why I'm coming to His Excellency, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Because this story, and I hope he will like also the part that I'm going to say about him in the book, the disclosures that I have made, because he served in a government that wanted to destroy his political future, wanted to destroy his family, wanted to destroy his business. And because at some point they couldn't reach him, it was those of us, the lesser beings, who were serving him that were being hounded. A mention was made about my SAP on television. What followed was even bigger. Frequent arrests, detention, DSS cells, and eventually even being dumped in Kuje prison. And I wish Justice Gumi was here, the one who discharged and acquitted me. So one of the lessons we want journalists to take from this experience is journalism is enormous in terms of the power that you yield, deciding which story to use, which story not to use. You can destroy people, you can build them. This book, many years back, Justice Gumi he got into trouble. He was the chief judge of Abuja, FCT High Court, and there was a big fight against him. And they got him, they almost got him, those people who are trying to chase him out. And some of my friends said, there's a gentleman who's a good judge, and they want to destroy him, help him. And I'm glad that Bayo Onanuga is seated here. His magazine, The News, did a cover story. I got Bayo to understand what was happening, and they ran a cover story on Justice Gumi and how he defended his own position. Well, when all of these things were going on, I had forgotten completely. I was being hounded, I was prosecuted, and before Justice Gumi, he was trying me. Gumi could have jailed me. I don't know. I'm not saying that he compromised justice, because the merit of my case was defended adequately. Three SANs in Gige, Akintola, Ricky Tarfa, they were all sponsored by the former vice president. The goodness of my case was not in doubt. But as a human being, had I refused to help Justice Gumi, had I joined others to antagonize him, and at the end of it, in fact, Justice Gumi sent a gift to me. And I said, no, not for me. This is the tradition we have carried for Barewa College, of which you are also a product. I will not take any gift. You can maybe the small boys over there who helped you. And that was. So I'm saying that we're trying to bring learning to young people so that they can take examples from, and it is not even inside the government. You had situations where you feel you are in the same political party, the same government, you are sailing in the same direction, and then somebody who should know gives you misleading information. As a journalist, you are taught not to lower your guard, check and cross-check everything that they give you. But this man is a senior person in your government, you are working with them. What did he stand to gain by misleading you? So these things, and for the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, we have with him for 8 years old. I hope we are able to bring him much closer to Nigeria so that they will understand him, including, as the vice president said, the things that he eats, the clothes that he wears. Why would he reject a diamond wristwatch? All of these things, people will learn, from them. And to talk about, and the book also addressing a lot of the things that Boss Mustafa has said that were authoritatively collected and presented in a very summary form. So Muhammadu Buhari has done his part, and the legacy must be preserved. This is a country that forgets too often. We are bedeviled by amnesia. The moment you go, they forget about you and they move on. So we must continue to preserve the legacy and keep the records of our former leaders. I think I will not say much. I'm supposed to introduce. So the book is intended to achieve two major objectives. It's a learning document for younger people who are learning journalism and public relations in schools, and two, to project the legacies of President Muhammadu Buhari. Before I take my seat, I know that I will not be back to say my vote of thanks. I'd like to thank everyone who has come here, and in particular, cite the two younger brothers of Mrs. Buhari, who also have not been recognized, Mahmoud and Ahmed. And Mallam Garba actually was my roommate and classmate in Bariwa College. And I'm happy that he's good. They said he brought a bullion band here. I'm glad that I had this credit. And Femi Adesina also, I must mention him because he's just a special kind of person. You know, and Governor Fahimi is in this room. When they first appointed us, and it's in the book, he called us to his suite in Hilton and said, "You two, you must not fight." I said, "Me and Femi, we won't fight." He kept on wanting to, how would you work as spokespersons, two of you, and you don't fight? But in the end, here we are. It's like, you know, two men sharing one wife, and they don't quarrel about it. that's how we ended it. And please also, Nduka Obaibena is my boss in the media. He's done everything for me, and I really appreciate his generosity. And lastly, my wife, Hafsatu, she's seated there. Before we were going through those hassles, arrest and detention, we used to hear about high blood pressure from our neighbors. It came to our house that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mallam Garba Shehu, for putting your experiences in a book form. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we'll move quickly now. I'd like to welcome our book reviewer, and this is a very notable academic. He's a professor of media history. But the beauty of this man is that he wears two caps. One side of his head is that he's an academic. The other side, he's a traditional ruler. Currently, he is the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University, Kashere Gombe State. Please welcome Professor Umar Pate.
The President, ably represented, the Chairman of the occasion, Excellencies, I will be going by the instruction given by the Chairman to stand on the protocol he earlier established. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The title of the book is, according to the President, Lessons from a Presidential Spokesman's Experiences. The author is Garba Shehu, OON, FNGE, MNIPR. The price is not stated, and the page is about 239. According to the President, Garba Shehu, veteran journalist and former senior special assistant on media and publicity to President Muhammadu Buhari, undertakes an ambitious task of chronicling 8 years of presidential communication, political leadership, and governance from the unique vantage point of a trusted insider. Part memoir, part political chronicle, and part institutional defense. The book reflects the author's proximity to and unwavering loyalty to the man he served from 2015 to 2023. As the title implies, the book is heavily centered on the voice, vision, and approaches of President Buhari himself. Shehu assembles a compelling narrative using presidential speeches, public statements, press briefings, and behind-the-scene reflections to portray what Buhari said, what he meant, and why he acted the way he did on core national issues such as security, the economy, anti-corruption, foreign policy, leadership, and governance reform, among others. Even though the author said it is not a memoir, according to the President, it's a carefully crafted account of presidential intent and public perception, shaped by the author's role as both a communicator and a custodian of legacy. Garba Shehu's credentials as a media strategist and seasoned journalist shine through in his compelling storytelling attention to distinction. With a captivating prose style, he shares such insights, difficult encounters, and high-stakes responsibilities from his professional journey. Each chapter reveals just enough to spark deeper curiosity, leaving the reader with the sense that far more lies beneath the surface, deliberately reserved for clarity, brevity, and narrative effectiveness. Spanning 10 chapters across 239 pages, the book traverses the arc of Shehu's career, from humble beginnings to the pinnacle of political communication. The first 2 chapters stretches early life, detailing his education in Dutse, Jigawa State, through secondary school to Bayero University, Kano, and eventually the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where he earned a master's degree in mass communication. His professional rise began at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, then Triumph Newspapers in Kano, and later the Aluminium Smelting Company of Nigeria, Alscon. From the onset, it is clear that Shehu was marked for greatness, as famously observed by the late Emir of Kano, Alhaji Ado Bayero, when he visited their school and luckily touched Shehu's head and said, "You are going to be great." Chapter 2 details his rise through the media ranks, from NTA reporter in Sokoto and Lagos to editor and eventually managing director at Triumph Newspapers. These formative experiences taught him the value of press freedom, journalistic ethics, and mentorship, principles that later defined his approach to public communication. Chapter 3 recounts his challenging initiation into the volatile world of political communication as spokesperson to then Vice President Atiku Abubakar. This chapter is particularly gripping as it details the tense and often antagonistic relationship between Vice President Atiku and President Olusegun Obasanjo. As a result of his loyalty and professional commitment, Garba Shehu paid a heavy price. He was expelled from the villa, detained by the state security services, and imprisoned in Kuje prison. Despite enduring years of trial and persecution, Shehu was eventually discharged and acquitted, and crucially, never lost the confidence of his principal. Chapters 4 to 6 chronicle his dramatic return to the villa, this time as the spokesperson to the President of Nigeria. The book outlines the political intrigues, strategic maneuvers, and communication efforts that led to his appointment. Chapter 6 provides a candid and detailed assessment of President Buhari, the man, the myth, and the misunderstood leader. Here, Shehu offers a revealing perspective on Buhari's leadership style, decision-making processes, and media persona, helping to demystify and humanize a figure often seen through ideological or partisan lenses. Of particular interest is the discussion around the role of communication in the historic 2015 election that unseated the incumbent PDP and brought Buhari's APC into power. Shehu's analysis of disinformation, public sentiment, and media strategy is both instructive and timely, especially in an age when digital noise often drowns out verified information. Chapters 7 through 9 take readers deep into the engine room of Villa Communications, explaining how Shehu and his team navigated relentless criticisms, economic downturns, political opposition, and media scrutiny. Despite intense pressure, the team responded with measured professionalism, deploying the tools of strategic communication, public relations, and crisis management without descending into personal attacks or abusive rhetoric. As a professor in communication studies, my interest is in the lessons that this book has particularly for people in mass communication and the journalism sector. And I've been able to come up with 10 good lessons. According to the president, Garba Shehu not only documents his journey, but also demonstrates mastery in strategic communication and political messaging. His ability to promote, protect, and project his principles under intense public pressure is commendable. Beyond narrative, the book offers valuable lessons for communication scholars, media professionals, and students of political communication, and I list them. 1, proximity to power requires professionalism and discretion. Being close to decision makers demands not only skill, but ethical discipline and emotional intelligence. Garba has been able to prove that sufficiently. Number 2, strategic communication is an art as well as science. Effective messaging in governance involves timing, audience segmentation, content framing, and sustained engagement to prepare, and also the need to prepare our students, particularly in journalism school, on issues of safety. And when we talk of safety for journalists, we are talking of psychological safety, physical safety, economic safety, legal safety, gender safety, digital safety, and all the other safeties, which Garba was able to handle sufficiently to defend himself and defend what he stood for. Number 3, crisis communication is a core competency in turbulent political environments. Media professionals must remain calm, factual, and constructive in their responses. Number 4, credibility is built over time. Credibility is built on 4 fundamental elements in communication, and they are truthfulness, relevance, competence, and dynamism. Shehu's story affirms that personal and professional integrity sustain long-term relevance in the public communication space. Again, we saw that in the content of the book. Number 5, relationships are strategic assets. His experience highlights the importance of cultivating and sustaining networks over political, media, civil society, and security sectors. You do not build or cultivate relationships in a day and gain satisfaction or become gratified from such a relationship. You have to take it over time. Then number 6, archiving and institutional memory matter in our business, journalism. Documenting speeches, press briefings, and events provides a strong foundation for public accountability and legacy, so that anytime you need anything, you have somewhere to go and get them. Then number 7, communication can reframe leadership. Shehu uses narrative to correct misperceptions and offer a more distinctive view of President Muhammadu Buhari's character and leadership style. As it is often said in leadership, if you ignore public opinion, definitely public opinion will not ignore you. And Garba understood that and did the best he could to influence public opinion in support of his boss. Number 8, navigating the digital 4 V's, what I call the 4 V's and the 4 R's. Professionals must be prepared to manage information volume, velocity, variety, and veracity using the 4 R's. And what are the 4 R's? Reach, he must be able to reach as many as possible, ensure relevance, ensure reputation, as well as do it with resilience. He was able to do all of that in today's media ecosystem as characterized by digital, social, and online communication. And number 9, advocacy must not undermine professionalism. Loyalty must be balanced with truth, tact, and adherence to communication ethics. If it's propaganda, there must be some element of truthfulness for people to perceive and believe. Number 10, mentorship is key to sector growth. Shehu's emphasis on grooming future professionals is a call to invest in knowledge transfer and media leadership development. It means knowledge must be sufficiently and correctly transferred into the younger ones who will grow up to take up responsibility and handle positions while they grow up. Finally, according to the president, is both a memo and a masterclass in high-level communication practice. It is recommended reading for journalists, political aides, PR professionals, and students of governance and media studies who seek to understand how power communicates and how communication shapes power. Your Excellencies, Mr. Chairman, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me thank the author for inviting me to be a reviewer of his book, and above all, thank you all for being a very wonderful audience. I thank you very much.
The review was done professorially. Amazing work. Let's put our hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. In 2015, when President Muhammadu Buhari won his election, exactly on that day, a young boy was born. And it's as if the parents have an idea that they have just cloned the former president in the little boy. About 9 years old now, he's our next speaker. He'll be delivering a short poet in honor of the man on whose day he was born. Please welcome young Buhari.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Muhammad Buhari, and today I'm here to say a beautiful poem titled The Buhari in Us. I am the mystery man filled with silence, not of fear, but of strength, stillness, not of retreat, but of reason. I am not the thunder that splits the tree, but the roots that holds the ground. I am the Buhari in us, not just the man, but the meaning. He was a lion, not in his roar, but in his restraints. He walked like a whisper through a marketplace of noise, unshaken by applause, unbent by insults. He wore power like plain clothes. No embroidery, no excess, only weight. Discipline to him is not old-fashioned. It is the spine of a strong nation. The Buhari in us rises early, eats humbly, acts when both heart and head agree. Integrity to him is not naivety. It is rebellion to be honest in a crooked time. He said no to easy riches. He sealed the leaking taps. He guarded the common purse like a sacred trust. Yes, he was misunderstood, but he paid for that with quiet pride. Patriotism is not a chant. It is not the noise of flags in the wind. It is sacrifice. It is to say, I will not feast while my people starve. I won't wave a flag I won't defend. It is to speak Hausa, Igala, Yoruba, Igbo, Kanuri, Fulani, and still say, I am Nigerian first. He is a mystery, yes, like the elephant, heavy with purpose, moving carefully, measuring every step. Some called him cold, but eyes preserve. Some called him slow, but balance takes time. The deeper mystery is not in the man, it's in us. Could we lead without noise? Could we serve without greed? The Buhari in us waits. Not loud, not flashy, but steady waiting to be recreated. So let us rise. Not in range, but in reason. Not in noise, but in nationhood. Let the man be remembered, but let the meaning awaken. I am Muhammad Buhari, not of Daura, but of discipline. Not tribe, but of truth, not of self, but of service. And if I am the last, then may you be the first to stir the Buhari in you. And again, my name is Muhammad Buhari, the last of them, the last man standing, the one foretold by our founding fathers of an enigma born out of a generation, rising from a nation for a generation. I am President Muhammad Buhari, not of yesterday, not of today, but of tomorrow. Thank you.
I don't know if we have prophets in the room, those who can prophesy about the future. Watch this young man 30 years, he will come back to you to campaign to be president of Nigeria. The Buhari in all of us. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to present the book and our chief presenter, the former chief of staff to President Buhari, former ambassador to United Nations, a global icon, Professor Ibrahim A. Gambari CFR, will be doing the presentation.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I was thinking that I'll just say all protocols observed. But you don't bring an old diplomat to a gathering and expect him not to do some protocols. So chairman of the occasion, His Excellency General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, the Deputy Chairman, Prince Nduka Obiabuna, the Duke himself, His Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFR, ably represented by distinguished Senator George Akumi, Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The Vice President of the Federal Republic, Senator Shetima Kashim, ably represented by Professor Umar Modibo, His Excellency, the former Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibajo, GCON, representing our boss, President Muhammadu Buhari. On a personal note, I owe President Buhari a huge debt of gratitude, and of course through him to the nation, for taking a chance to appoint me as his foreign minister in 1984. Then 39 years old, and he took a chance. It was even a bigger chance. 35 years later, when he asked me, after we were involuntarily out of government in 1985, in the year 2020, appointed me as his chief of staff, to quote him, to come and help him conduct the transition, but also to come and suffer with him in serving Nigeria. His Excellency, former president, former vice president, not one time, but former vice president, with due respect to Professor Sibajo, my friend Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, GCON. You can choose your brothers. You cannot choose your brothers, but you can choose your friend. I'm happy to call him my friend. The former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babagana Kingibe, GCON. And I want to personally welcome him to the enviable rank of Nigerians in this hall who are 80 years and above. Yeah, congratulations for reaching 80 years. And you know that it will not be complete if I don't make the reference to the fact that I'm your elder brother, your Igbo. by a few weeks, but nonetheless, it's permanent. The members of the National Assembly here present, former governors, representatives of state governors, former ministers, including especially the ministers under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration from 2015 to 2023. His Royal Highness, the 16th Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Bayero, the chairman of the NDLA, General Buba Marwa, who again I was privileged to have had as my defense advisor during the time I was privileged to be ambassador and permanent representative of Nigeria to the UN. I don't want to praise myself, but I think since he left, he became governor, became ambassador, and is now one of the most active chairman of NDLA that the country has ever seen. Please give me a round of applause. The keynote speaker, the boss of bosses, Boss Mustafa, and the book reviewer, Professor Patti. As an recognition also, I have huge respect for vice chancellors, because although I've been privileged and still are to serve as chancellor of some universities, pro-chancellors, I've never had the privilege of becoming a vice chancellor. So, Professor Patti, I respect you and thank you for that wonderful review. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I was wondering what is the role of a chief presenter, because I'm not a book reviewer, I'm not a chief launcher, but because I came about a few thousands of miles away to be here today, and the author of the book felt they have to create some role for the former boss as the chief of staff, because we worked together in the villa under President Muhammadu Buhari. He said, okay, you be the chief presenter. And that's a very tricky one, because you have the author of the book who told us why he wrote the book. Then we had the keynote speaker and the chief reviewer as to what is in the book. Okay? And then you have the chief launchers who will soon open their wallets. So I guess I'm in between. And so please forgive me if sometimes what I'm about to say may overlap somewhat with those that have been said a bit before. But what a great honor, a unique privilege for me as the chief presenter of this book to pay tribute to the author for giving us an enduring chronicle of public service and strategic communication from the vantage point of a presidential spokesman. In a real sense, therefore, this is far more than a mere book launch. It is a profound act of national documentation, a deliberate and vital effort to imbue our collective consciousness with the intricate operational dynamics of presidential communication and a vital element in the very architecture of democratic governance. Mr. President, who is ably represented by His Excellency, distinguished Senator George Akume, your esteemed presence here today transcends a simple gesture of goodwill. We see it as a potent affirmation of our administration's unwavering commitment to international discourse, intellectual discourse, and an unequivocal recognition of the weight that strategic communication carries between the government and the people in shaping effective democratic leadership through national conversation as a critical block in nation building. This 260-page book, meticulously crafted and easy to read book, breaks free from the conventional parameters of political memoirs. It emerges instead as a critical academic and practical resource, especially designed to guide students of communication, journalists, practitioners, and researchers through the complex terrain of presidential communication. It offers an authoritative, first-hand account of the strategic decisions and daily operational realities that define two pivotal epochs in Nigeria's recent political history. Mallam Shehu's chronicle navigates with considerable candor his 6-month tenure as spokesman for His Excellency, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar GCON during the concluding phase of the Obasanjo administration. This period, which he described in his own words as testy yet remarkable for his professional growth, saw him embroiled in intense political contention, facing challenges that included multiple arrests, detention by DSS, and even incarceration in Kuje prison for 2 arduous years. These rough and tough moments are also presented as vital lessons for media practitioners and politicians alike on navigating the intricate relationship with the media, with the society, the courts, law enforcement agencies also. His personal odyssey, commencing from ostensibly modest circumstances, as he himself put it, the son of a driver who struggled to support the family in Dutse and in Kano without privilege and no connections, yet rising to Nigeria's seat of power, serves as a powerful validation of meritocracy within our democratic framework. His life, as he puts it, again I quote, exemplifies the story of success without the limits set by social factors like ethnicity, religion, or region. The larger, more extensive portion of this volume, however, documents Mallam Shehu's transformative 8-year journey along our revered former President Muhammadu Buhari from the pivotal 2015 presidential campaign onwards. It also offers an intimate portrayal of President Buhari's unique persona and style of governance, and his unwavering conviction in allowing his work to speak for him rather than merely engaging in ceremonial ostentation. Former Vice President Osibajo also mentioned about the humorous side of President Buhari. And we're still waiting for that book, Laughing with Buhari, because I want to share with this audience some of my own experiences. In January 1984, just about a month after President Buhari took office as head of the federal military government, we had a special envoy from President Reagan to tell us, to give us a very stern message. Why did we close the border, which impacted negatively to Niger, by then whose leader was Hosni Abri, a favorite son, a favorite friend and ally of the United States. So this gentleman came, was a retired general, and he wanted to start with some small talk, like diplomats tend to do, and he said, Mr. President, I love your country. As a matter of fact, the first time I visited Nigeria was in 1942, when, as a junior officer in the U.S. Army during World War II, I came to visit Nigeria. So General Buhari said, General, I didn't realize until you mentioned this that we had more than one thing in common. I know we are both retired generals, but also that, as you now say, we both visited Nigeria for the first time in 1942. And he looked at me and he said, my foreign minister had not even visited by the fact that both of us visited Nigeria. But this book illuminates key policy thrusts that underscore President Buhari's transformative legacy. I will skip them because Boss Mustafa has promised us there will be a compendium which will be shared. But it's important to put these things on record. It was Winston Churchill, at the end of World War II, Prime Minister of Britain, who was asked, Prime Minister, how do you think, or do you think that history will be kind to you? And he said, yes, History will be kind to me because I intend to write it. And he wrote 11 volumes, those of you remember, on the history of Second World War. So we're not going to have 11 volumes about Buhari's administration, but we might get close to it. But I know that whether we write it or not, history will be kind to that administration, because he was a unique man, a unique leader, led by example, not ostentatious, very stern. And he always, once he gives somebody a responsibility, he allows you to do your job. But of course, unfortunately, some people in whom he places confidence abuse it. I'm not going to go into detail, but they know themselves. Yeah, they abuse it. But nonetheless, he's a man that will take responsibility. And he says, even in private to me, to say, well, I appointed them. Okay, and sometimes I have to be tolerant of some inefficiencies, some backroom deals, but ultimately, it's my name, Buhari. But I feel sure that in totality, we will get to appreciate the man. But the particularly insightful contribution of this volume lies in his rigorous analysis of the greatest challenge that President Buhari faced, which Mallam Shehu identified as, quote, the perception challenge and the tyranny of high expectation. And this perception challenge is not small. President Buhari himself often reminds, when I'm with him, that, you know, this is your America. He refers them to them as my Arabic, because I've spent an enormous amount of time in the US as a student, teacher, and worker. He said, can you imagine that I was invited by President Trump at that time, head of state of Nigeria, invited by the president. We sat down in front of the camera. He said, Mr. President, why are you killing Christians in your country? Well, because the perception from the Christian right that was given to him was that this was an Islamic fundamentalist who is bent on just killing Christians in his country. So, perception challenge. And the tyranny of high expectations, which is that Buhari has come, he must solve all problems, both domestic and foreign. And I must say that this is also something that we have to reflect on as Nigerians. We always think that we have a president, he should resolve all problems. But he can't. Every president leads, sets example, has to be accountable, but the responsibility or the guarantee of success belongs not just to the president, but to those who assist him, those who are sometimes imposed on him, and the rest of the people. That's why security, with due respect to General Burtai is here and all the other generals, national security is not the responsibility of the president and commander-in-chief alone. I think it was the famous General Colin Powell who said, or it's Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense, he said, you don't fight a war with the army you wish. You fight a war with the army that you have. So in many ways, a country deserves the kind of president they get because it's a reflection of the country. However, there are times when a country gets a president that is better than what they deserve, or sometimes worse. And the process of selecting the president, I'm using this podium and this book to me, we must look into political parties in Nigeria, how presidential candidates, gubernatorial candidates are selected, by whom, and in what process, because if garbage in, garbage out. But people feel, well, it's not our business. We are not politicians. I'm not a politician myself, student political science. But the country's business is our business, collective business. Security is our collective business. But yes, we hold the leader responsible has to take responsibility as the leader. And no leader is there that he doesn't want. Because if you don't want, you can always leave. So by accepting, then that's the responsibility for people to put their lives in your hands. And I believe to the best of his ability, Buhari did his best with what he had. Now, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. A particularly insightful contribution of this volume lies in the fact that we didn't have at the beginning what we call strategic communication or strategic approach in addressing criticism in the right spirit and often concrete communication solution for dealing with scenario. Many people think that being a spokesman is just to abuse everybody or tit for tat. It's not it. It's communication to get the president's policies understood and, if possible, accepted by the generality of the people. That's the role. And therefore, you have to take a strategic approach to it. Duke, I'm not speaking for you. You know, I'm just a simple man from Ilorin. But that's what strategic communication is about, not abusing, you know. Because how can you be abusing people? And, you know, you will explain what you are trying to do, what are the constraints, and what efforts you are making, and therefore how the president deserves the support which he needs. So, this dimension of strategic communication offers invaluable lessons for every public servant and aspiring leader on navigating the complexities of public opinion in a vibrant democracy, particularly in an era contending with misinformation and the inherent risk of spinning stories. And also, I know I sympathize because Garba Shehu, Femi Adesina, they are the spokesmen, but they are the designated spokesmen. There are so many people who speak for the president. Because Mustafa speaks for the president. Gambari sometimes speaks for the president. You know, chairman of the party speaks for the president. Sometimes traditional rulers speak for the president. Some unofficial advisors, these mysterious people that never come to the public front, you know, but Nigerians know them and go to them. They speak for the president. So how do you, the designated spokesman, coordinate all of this in serving the president? But beyond the rich narrative of the two presidencies that Mallam Garba Shehu served, the book serves as an invaluable pedagogical instrument for practitioners. It delves into the crucial importance of record keeping, the cultivation of robust interpersonal relationship, and explicates the immense ethical power wielded by journalists in their decisions to print or not to print. It highlights the advent of strategic communication in the villa and offers a comprehensive blueprint for ethical leadership development, inspiring future generations to serve with distinction. I feel sure, therefore, Excellencies and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that this book will undoubtedly serve as a critical reference for future administrations striving for enhanced accountability and efficiency. So, there are many reasons to commend this book. There are many reasons why you should buy this book. There are many reasons why you should read this book. But what seems to me one of the best reasons is that the author is committed to mentorship. You know, mentorship. Yeah. There was a time in this country when the leaders mentored people. Abubakar Tafawa Balewa mentored Shehu Shagari and others. Ahmadu Bello mentored several people. You know, I'm also a beneficiary of the kind of mentoring that Ahmadu Bello did by suggesting that there are young Northerners that should be sent to King's College. Why is it? It's a federal government secondary school, the only federal government boys secondary school. No Northerners there. Go there. You know, grow there. Go there and grow there. Send people like Baba Gana Kingbe and not influence. They are being sent to UK as undergraduates, Sussex. I don't know why he went to Sussex, by the way, when there was the London School of Economics, there were Oxford and Cambridge. But that's a story for another time. But you see, they groomed people. They mentored people. And where we are today. So where are who have people mentored that followed those great leaders of our country? So this gentleman, Garba Shehu, devoted to mentoring at least a section of the Nigerian population. It's always dangerous when you give the microphone to a professor of international relations and a diplomat. He knows when to start, but to stop is a problem. But I will have to stop. But I did better than the foreign minister of India, Menon, who at the Security Council meeting on Kashmir, he spoke for 5 hours to the Security Council and broke down. And people say, where's the doctor in the house? They said, there's no doctor in the house. Somebody said, no. It's easy to get the microphone. So they put the microphone under his nose, and he woke up and continued. So, well, I've not broken down. The microphones are still here, but I have to now end. I want to end with the inspiring message that Nigeria, our beloved Nigeria, remains a land where dreams are realized, where people like me, born in Ilorin, Bande, somewhere in Kebbi, Amina Mohammed in Gombe somewhere, and yet this same country produced people that played roles so that when they talked, when they acted, people listened, So that nation deserves applause. And we must encourage a system of leadership selection that emphasizes meritocracy, excellence, and where every citizen possesses the inherent potential to contribute meaningfully to our national greatness. Thank you. May the Almighty Allah bless all of us. And so with that, I hope I've persuaded you to quickly go and buy this book as soon as it's launched. It will be a tremendous addition to your library, a tremendous addition to the building block of our national development. So where are the chief launchers? So MC, I hand over the microphone back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. There was a mix of all kinds of things: diplomacy, professorial talent, and the transitional institutions. We thank you very much. Very quickly, we're about to unveil the book. The unveiling will be led by the representative of the president. So we have everybody who is seated in front here to please join the representative of the president as they move forward towards unveiling of the book. Your Excellency, please. Okay. So, Your Excellency, any change? All right. And so, Your Excellency, please, they'll be moving towards the unveiling. And as soon as we unveil, he will read his speech. Chief Femi Additional, do you want to leave your brother behind on this one?
Good afternoon, sir. They do. They do. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, I am on this beautiful book written by very professionally sound journalist and intellectually inclined Garba Shehu. It is my honor so to do for the benefit of Nigerians and even beyond. God bless you all.
We will have copies each for those who are unveiling, and they will come on stage here to have photographs. Your Excellency, the SGF, please lead everybody on stage with copies of the book for photograph. Cameraman, please come down. His Excellency, the SGF, will be leading everybody around the book. Please have copies and come on stage. Have copies and come on stage. Everybody who has a copy, please follow the SGF and come on stage. Okay, please, let's settle down. Let's settle down, please. Let's settle down. Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the representative of the President is about to speak. Can we settle down now, please? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So without much ado now, let me welcome the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, His Excellency Senator George Akume, representing the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to address us. While we have one room, let's settle down, please. Thank you.
The Vice President, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, GCFR, ably represented by Special Advisor Modibo Omar. The Chairman and Elder Statesman, General Yakubu Gowon, former Head of State. The former President, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, ably represented by Professor Yemi Oshibajo, GCON, former Vice President. His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, GCON, former Vice President. Members of the National Assembly, the governors, serving and former, honorable ministers, serving and non-serving, the former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, His Excellency Ambassador Babagana Kingibe GCON, former SGF, my brother, my predecessor in office, Boss Mustafa CFR. So you can see the difference. GCON for Babagana, CFR for Boss. Special advisors, members of the diplomatic corps, traditional rulers, retired generals, retired police officers. The author of this wonderful book, Garba Shehu, I recall our fight against them and what you told me. And of course, we also escaped COVID-19 very narrowly. The chief launchers ably represented Inua and my very good friend, I can't see him now, invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I am representing Mr. President, who would have loved to be here because of his respect for the former President, Muhammadu Buhari. But as you all know, he is in faraway Brazil on official assignment. He asked me to represent him. So please let me proceed with his address. I am deeply honored to be here today as the special guest of honor at the formal presentation of this thought-provoking and important book, According to the President, Lessons from a Presidential Spokesman's Experience, authored by a seasoned journalist, media strategist, and former presidential spokesman, Mallam Garba Shehu. Let me begin by congratulating the author for this important contribution to Nigeria's democratic literature and public discourse. This event is not merely a celebration of a book. It is a significant national moment, an opportunity to reflect on the leadership journey my predecessor and one of Nigeria's most consequential leaders, former President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, whose time in office shaped the direction of our country in profound ways. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the book we are gathered to launch today is a compelling and sincere documentation of leadership from within. Through the eyes and experiences of a spokesman who worked at the very heart of power, we are offered a unique, unfiltered, and well-considered insights into the decisions, challenges, and accomplishments that defined President Buhari's tenure from 2015 to 2023. From President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Muhammadu Buhari is a man whose leadership stood on the pillars of integrity, accountability, prudence, as well as patriotism. Under his stewardship, Nigeria witnessed a decisive push to confront insecurity, a serious commitment to infrastructure renewal, a renewed focus on self-reliance, and a clear effort to sanitize the public sector. These themes resonate strongly in this book and must be appreciated in their full historic dimensions. From the restoration of fiscal discipline to the diversification of the economy, from the development of our critical national infrastructure to the transformation of our rail and road networks, and from the expansion of social investment programs to the repositioning of the agricultural sector, President Buhari's era reflected an earnest attempt to reposition Nigeria to future resilience. In foreign policy, he was deliberate, calculated, and consistent. Nigeria's voice remained steady and respected within the African Union and the international community. Our engagements with global partners were guided by principled foreign policy doctrine that upheld national interest, regional stability, and non-alignment. At this juncture, it is also worth commending President Buhari's humility and restraint in the exercise of presidential power, hallmarks of democratic maturity. In the face of provocation, he remained calm. In moments of uncertainty, he held steady. His was a presidency of discipline and quiet strength. Mallam Garba Shehu's account provides a critical behind-the-scenes perspective. The book also serves as a repository of wisdom for public communicators, policymakers, scholars, historians, and Nigerians at large. It offers key lessons on leadership communication, governance under pressure, and the intersection between power and public perception. As a nation, we must never get tired of documenting our journey. If we must move forward purposefully, we must learn from the past with honesty. Books like these play a vital role in that learning process. They preserve memory, illuminate truth, and sharpen our collective understanding of nationhood. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, nation building is a relay. The efforts of one administration lay the foundation for the next. In this regard, I acknowledge the efforts of my predecessor, President Buhari, and assure all Nigerians that the reform-oriented path he initiated will be considered consolidated and strengthened under this administration. Our renewed hope agenda is inspired by the desire to build a resilient, just, and inclusive Nigeria, a nation that delivers dividends of democracy to all its citizens. Let me once again commend Mallam Garba Shehu, whose mentor happens to be the vice chairman of this occasion, the Duke, who happens to be my in-law. So, let me once again commend Mallam Garba Shehu for this work of deep insight and historical relevance. I congratulate the organizing committee of this book's public presentation and all those who supported its production. As we unveil this book, may it serve as a mirror to the past, a compass for the present, and a beacon for the future. Let us continue to invest in honest storytelling, objective assessments, and constructive national dialogue. I thank you all for your kind attention. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, representing His Excellency, the President of Nigeria. We thank you. I'm very sure the pledge forms have gone round. Before we commence the actual launch of the book, we'll have very short goodwill messages, not more than 2 minutes per person, before we go. And to kick us off, I'd like to welcome here the 15th Emir of Kano, Elijah Aminu Adubayero, who will be kicking off the goodwill messages. Our Royal Father.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله على النبي الكريم. His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, ably represented by the Secretary, the Government of the Federation, Your Excellency, the Vice President, ably represented, our father, the former Head of State, General Yakubu Gowon, Your Excellency, the former Vice President, Alhaji Tiku Abubakar, the Vice President, Professor Osimbajo in absentia, other distinguished guests, too numerous to mention, but I have high regards for all of them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It is with great honor and gratitude to Allah that we stand before you today as we gather to celebrate the launch of an extraordinary book, according to the President. Lessons from a presidential spokesman experience, authored by none other than one of the greatest Nigerian journalists of our generation, Mallam Garba Shehu. This book not only serves as evidence to his journalistic prowess, but also provides invaluable insights into the leadership and legacy of our former president, one of the fathers of our great nation, President Muhammadu Buhari. Today, we pay tribute to a leader whose commitment to the continuous existence of our nation has left an indelible mark on the hearts of millions of Nigerians. President Buhari exemplified integrity, resilience, and a steadfast dedication to the principles of democracy and good governance. His tenure was not without challenges, yet he handles them with a great sense of purpose and unflinching resolve to uplift the Nigerian people. We would like to commend Mallam Garba Shehu for his remarkable efforts in documenting these vital lessons learned during his tenure or his time as a presidential spokesperson. His dedication to truth and transparency in journalism has made him one of Nigeria's finest media personalities. Garba's ability to capture the essence of leadership and the intricacies of governance in this book will undoubtedly serve as a guiding light for future generations of leaders and citizens alike. We will also like to take a moment to acknowledge the courage and loyalty of Professor Ibrahim Gambari, the former Chief of Staff of President Buhari, who happens to be my uncle. His presence here today alongside other former ministers who have gathered to honor their principal speaks volume about the bonds forged in service of our nation. It is an indication to the spirit of brotherhood and mutual respect that exists among those who have dedicated their lives to the betterment of our nation. As we reflect on the legacy of President Buhari, let us not forget the wisdom he imparted during his tenure. We pray for his good health and long life so that Nigeria can continue to benefit from his fountain of wisdom, experience, and patriotism. May he remain a guiding force in our nation's journey towards greatness. At this juncture, we wish to seize this opportunity of this moment to call upon our esteemed leaders to redouble their efforts in alleviating the sufferings of the common man. It is imperative that we continue to prioritize the urgent resolution of the security challenges and communal violence that have plagued our beloved nation. Let us remember that the strength of our country lies not just in our leadership, but in the collective spirit of brotherhood among the citizens. In the same vein, we wish to call upon all Nigerians to rally behind our government, offering support and, most importantly, fervent prayers for our leaders. Together, let us forge a path towards lasting peace, genuine unity, and everlasting prosperity, ensuring that every voice is heard and every life valued. Let us join our hands in prayers for the continuous peace and stability of our beloved nation. It is only through unity, peace, understanding, and a shared commitment to our common goals that we can achieve the greatness that lies ahead. I will emphasize our commitment to the government in prayers and goodwill. Praying Allah will continue to guide and bless us. Allah ya ci gaba da kare mutuncinmu da addininmu. Allah ya ba mu lafiya da zaman lafiya. Iyayenmu da malamanmu da shugabanninmu da suka koma ga Ubangiji, Allah ya jaddada musu rahama. Allah ya ci gaba da ba mu albarkacinsu. Idan wa'adinmu ya yi, Allah ya samu cika da imani. Wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. The 15th Emir of Kano, His Royal Highness Alhaji Aminu Adubairo. Thank you very much. If you have the pledge forms with you, we are told not to transfer to the account number on the form. The media guys will put the real account on the screen, but I have it here, 6202517056 UBA. They will put it on the screen. But let me begin to invite, we'll be mixing goodwill messages and the launch of the book. I'd like to welcome here Alhaji Lawal Garba to kick off the launching. I welcome you here. Thank you, sir.
All protocols are observed. Thank you. I would like, to mention that I think in this hall, I'm the longest person that have known Garba Shehu. I've known this gentleman for 54 years plus. To be exact, I've known Garba Shehu for 54 years, 7 months. Yeah, exactly. He has been a very close friend of mine. We stayed in the same room, same year, right from secondary school. Thank you. Without much wasting of our time, I would like to personally launch the book with a sum of 50 million naira. Yeah. In addition to my own, launching amount, for 50 million naira, I'm also have been asked by a very close friend of mine that would have been here today. Unfortunately, he's engaged abroad. Somebody Isaac Rabiu, that I should also convey his figure of another 50 million naira launching the book. So that's for two of us. 100 million. Thank you.
The applause is for 50,000, no? 100 million naira. 100 million. Our next launcher just winked at me now that he will do better. Alhaji Nua Baba, you are representing Alhaji Mangal. Airline, everything inclusive.
All other protocols observed. It is my honor to stand before this important gathering today to represent Alhaji Ahiru Balau, Mangal Chairman, Mangal Industries, who supposed to be here in person, but unfortunately he had to travel outside the country last night. He sends his apologies. He asked me to buy few books for the younger generations that are coming for the sum of 100 million.
Uh, 100 seems to be the standard. Anything below will not take it. Alhaji Nasiru Dano, Sadona Duduse, I welcome you here. Where is he? Okay, This will do 200 million. You're welcome. You look the part.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The former head of state, General Kugawa, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Emir of Kano, all protocol duly observed. I would like to donate 20 million naira with 20 copies. And for this very important book, for history of our leader, and the kind of leadership he has brought down for this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you. Please, if you have the pledge forms, and we have, these are just people who called. Now the floor is open. Borno State government is supporting this with 15 million naira. The political advisor to the president, Yao Darazo, is also buying a few copies for 1 million naira. The SGF, on his own, is also buying a few copies for 2 million naira. The platforms are around now. You can begin to fill them. Media, please put the real account number on the screen. Media, please put the real account number on the screen. I have it here. UBA 6202 517056. That's the real account number. Put it on the screen. If you have filled your pledge forms, let's have them. Let's announce. Now the floor is open. We say thank you to our royal father, Etsunupe, buying 5 copies for 500,000 naira. So while we are collating the pledge forms, and if there's any other person who is in the audience that wants to come and announce how much they want to buy a few copies, please, the microphone is open. But while we're doing that, we'll go back to our goodwill messages. Okay, somebody's coming this way. It's Prof. Our former Minister for Communication and Digital Economy. I welcome you, Prof.
Permit me to copy and paste the protocol earlier observed. Furthermore, on behalf of the members of the Federal Executive Council who served under President Muhammadu Buhari from 2015 to 2019 and from 2019 to 2023, we donate a modest amount of 5 million naira in order to support the book and also the publication. Furthermore, we are grateful to the author Mallam Garba Shehu for documenting this very important book according to the President. We are very proud of you, and we pray to the Almighty to make the publication beneficial to humanity and also to grant our Baba a speedy recovery. Thank you for listening.
Assalamu alaikum. I, Ahmed Mohammed Dankabo, I donate the sum of 1 million naira.
And he's already transferring the 1 million naira via the right account number. The right account number is here. And as we are doing this, I saw the former governor of Osun State, Ogbeni Rauf Aragbeshola. Your Excellency, I welcome you. Thank you very much. You're welcome. The floor is still open. While we are doing that, let me welcome here Professor Ibe Kachuku, former Minister of State Petroleum. He will be combining launching and goodwill message in his impeccable style.
Your Excellencies, I will stand on existing protocol. Let me start by thanking Garba for doing this lovely work. I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to that. But let me also join others who have thanked you immensely for being the voice protector of all of us who served and taking all the bullets when they came on behalf of all of us who served. I join the words of very many in thanking His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari for giving myself and so many others an opportunity to serve and to learn. Because in Nigeria, when you serve, you get to learn a little bit more about the country that we have. And I pray that God Almighty grants him very quick recovery and that he returns home safely. The president, as I knew him, that's President Muhammadu Buhari, I'll just comment on three platitudes. One was his sense of service and his sense of integrity and the simplicity of his decision-making process. Few occasions when we were about to appoint a Secretary General for OPEC, he asked me to bring three names of people I thought could be the Secretary General for OPEC so that we could go canvass. And I submitted three names at a time. And he looked through the three names. He said, which one do you think really will be able to do the work? I said, all of them will be able to do the work. But late Alhaji Sanusi Bakindo brings a certain flair to that position, having been governor of OPEC, having been a past GMD of NNPC, and having been a man who is very fluent in Arabic language. And so right on the spot, he ticked them up and said, go ahead and start campaigning for him and tell him we've appointed him. Before then, I never met Alhaji Sanusi Bakindo, and I don't think the president, in fact, had any audience with him. That was the nature of the simplicity of his appointments. The second occasion was, of course, the appointment of the APO Secretary General, Dr. Umar Farouk, who had worked with me as a special advisor. And then when it was time for us to reform APO, which I had led for about 3 years, he said, who are we going to bequeath to ensure that some of the legacies you're leaving behind will stand? And I said, well, somebody who helped me craft all the policies is still in the system, which was Dr. Farouk. And he said, tell him to come see me. And of course, Dr. Farouk had an audience with him. Came out later, said he wasn't sure where he stood, but he called me an hour later and said, look, please announce his name. Go and campaign for him to become the Secretary General of Apple. I'm glad that Dr. Farouk Ibrahim has held that position now for about 5 years and done a tremendous amount of work in terms of stewarding that organization, including the recent launching of the $1 billion Apple Fund, which is now headquartered in Nigeria. But no other example best befits the president than on the issue of militancy. When we assumed position, militancy had so ravaged the oil sector that we were producing about 800,000 barrels and barely could meet the sustenance needs of the country. And so I went to him one morning and I said, look, we're not going to be able to solve this problem unless I take a tour and go out to the hinterlands and to the forest and meet some of these militants. And he said, Ibe, are you all right? And I said, yes. So you want when you get there, they kidnap you, then they hold me to ransom. And I said, no, I don't think they will. He said, the last I need is a Minister of Petroleum being kidnapped. And then I'm told to bring the money that I don't have to go and salvage him. But upon insistence, eventually I agreed that I should go. And I went there and spent 2 nights in the forest with them. And ultimately, that led to the Pandef agreement of ceasefire that we had, and led production from 800,000 barrels to about 2 million barrels. So that was the nature of the person that he was. I remember the day that I wanted to invite Pandef now to come visit him to say, we have peace, we're ready to go. And he was very reluctant to have that meeting. And I kept urging him to have the meeting. And he said, why do I want to give them a platform to come and abuse me? And I said, no, I don't think that will happen. They will come respectfully, they will talk with you, they will feel a sense of your fatherhood. Eventually, with the intervention of the Vice President, Professor Yemisi Banjo, eventually agreed to have that meeting, and we had it in the chambers. And every member of Pandef, led by late Chief Edwin Clark, showed up for the meeting. And you could still see that he was very uncomfortable throughout the meeting. But at the end, the meeting went well. And when I went back to him later on to say, you see, this people just wanted to get your feel as a father. They don't bite. He said, yes, so I was prepared, even if they beat. I had my own walking stick beside me. I was going to start whipping them one by one, because everybody had to fall in line and help Nigeria, you know. Eventually, that meeting held. The peace initiative was signed, and production obviously increased. So, looking back to him today, I think that was a man who believed, that was a man and still is a man who believed and believes completely in this country, gives his very best. His best may never always be enough, but I don't know anybody who served Nigeria whose best is ever enough. So today we remember him, we pray for his good health, and I thank Garba Shehu for taking time out to document this and bring this to us today. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. Professor Ibrahim Gambari, on behalf of State House staff, is buying a few copies for 2 million naira. And then His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Katsina State, has been here since morning. He's a very quiet man. We were even prevailing on him to come and announce the money, but he just said we should announce it. He has signed it in green color. He's buying a few copies for 20 million naira from the Katsina State government. Let me welcome the representative of the former Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fasola, SAN. Hakim Bello, you are here, and I'm very sure you must have a message from the Honorable Minister. Okay.
Not clarification. May peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you all. The earlier donation I announced was for few of us that are here. However, after further consultation, I have been requested by our colleagues that are not with us here physically that additional 5 million naira has also been added, making it 10 million naira. And when we consult others, the remaining members, we will continue to provide updates. So as it is so far, it is 10 million, and we will start continue to add after further consultation with our colleagues that are not here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. The late Alhaji Sani Mashal family are also buying a few copies for 2 million naira. Associate Professor Sule Yao Sule, 3 copies for 100,000 naira. While we are doing this, let me welcome to deliver his goodwill message, the man who has made a difference in the area of fighting drug laws and barons, Chairman of NDLEA, Brigadier General Muhammad Buba Marwa, to please step forward here for his goodwill message. Farida Waziri, 2 copies for 100,000 naira. Honorable Dr. Anwalu Azare, buying 2 copies for 100,000 naira.
Please permit me to stand on existing protocol. It is a great privilege for me not only to be part of this memorable event, but also to have been a part of the history documented that is being unveiled as a book today. I met President Muhammadu Buhari over 50 years ago as a young officer for the first time in 1974 when I was a lowly lieutenant in Port Harcourt, and he had just been posted to the division the GSO 1. He arrived very impressive, tall, slim, ramrod straight, suave, and impeccably dressed. And a good example to us young officers at the time as an officer and a gentleman. After that, I interacted with him over the years as an ADC to General Tiwad Anjuma then, when he was Chief of Army Staff. In the late 70s, President Buhari, as Minister of Petroleum, often came to see General Anjuma in the office and in the residence. And he was very kind, without airs, despite his appointment. And we thought, what a splendid example to us young officers at the time. I interacted with him, of course, several times over the years after that. And when he formed the CPC, we were one of those foot soldiers in the CPC. And Boss Mustafa spoke about 12 million votes in 2011. Let me tell you something. At the time, the Buhari campaign was run by individuals in the various states. I pegged his campaign in Adamawa State, and they sent me from the party headquarters 6 million naira to run his campaign. And I called Sadia right there. She was the treasurer. And I said, 6 million will be swallowed even in my local government before you reach anywhere. She told me, you are even lucky to get 6 million. Some of the other states have 4, 5 million. So the 12 million votes that he got in that election was not about money. It was Buhari himself. And the young boy that spoke here captured everything when he said, mystery. There's a mystery about Buhari's popularity. He himself, I doubt if he understands it. This is God-given. Well done, Garba Shehu, CON, for the excellent job at documenting the achievements of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. The former president demonstrated an acute understanding of the depth and breadth of one of the greatest challenges facing our society today. What is that challenge? The challenge of the drug problem. And instead of turning a blind eye, he acted. President Buhari recognized that drug abuse in Nigeria had grown into a threat to public health national security, and the very fabric of our communities. And in response, he took a decisive and unprecedented step by establishing the Presidential Advisory Committee for the Elimination of Drug Abuse, PASIDA. He entrusted me with the role of chairman of that committee, a responsibility I accepted with a deep sense of duty and urgency. We were charged with the task of thoroughly studying the drug problem, engaging stakeholders across the country, and providing actionable recommendations to the presidency. And in less than 1 year after our appointment, we submitted a comprehensive report to him with far-reaching recommendations. The president did not let the report gather dust. Instead, he acted. Following our work with PASIDA, President Buhari appointed me as chairman and CEO of NDLEA, which position I took up fully aware of the scale of the challenge ahead. And what I found on the ground was sobering, but I did not hesitate to return to him and present him with a list of pressing demands for him to intervene. And without delay, the president intervened positively. The president's support did not stop there. His interest in our work was also personal. I recall very vividly in 2022, the president was attending UNGA in New York, and we made the biggest seizure in the history of the agency of 2.1 tons of cocaine, valued at over $300 million in one night. He put a call through to me that night, all the way from New York, when he received the news of the seizure. He extended his congratulations to me and also issued a public statement after that. That had a profound effect as it uplifted the morale of our personnel and reminded them all that their sacrifices were recognized at the very highest level. And by the way, we made 5 arrests on that seizure, and 4 have been convicted already, and the 5th is still undergoing trial. Under President Buhari's leadership, the NDLA's capacity grew tremendously. With his approval, we expanded our strength from just under 5,000 to 15,000 personnel, a vital move that enabled us to increase our footprint, improve our response time, and deepen our intelligence gathering network across the Federation. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, progress is never accidental. It is the result of vision, courage, and sustained effort. And in the campaign against drug abuse, the former President Muhammad Buhari demonstrated all 3. And while the fight is far from over, the foundations laid during his time in office have given us the tools to push forward, and we're glad that his successor, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has continued with the same zeal, energy, and commitment to continue to support us in our efforts to curb the scourge of drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking in Nigeria. And just before I sit down, I wish to seize this opportunity on behalf of all the officers, men and women of our agency, to appreciate first my former boss in New York, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, CFR, for all the help that he gave the agency, and Femi Adesina, seated right there, Femi Adesina, OON. We thank you both very much indeed for what you have done for us. I wish the former President, Muhammad Buhari, continued God's blessing, good health, and long life. Amen. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly invite General Tukur Buratai to step to the podium and stand there. He's going to load the account with a lot of money. Hamisu Idris Medugu, 5 copies for 500,000 naira.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The chairman of the occasion, representative of the president, vice president, Royal Highness is here present. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me start by commending Garba Shehu, Mallam Garba Shehu, for writing this very thorough and, of course, an in-depth account of his stewardship in the presidency during the time of the presidency of President Muhammadu Buhari. And as you all know, I am one of the actors in the areas of security. I'm happy my CDS is here, General Bayomi Gabriel. And we played very important role, very critical and very strategic. And I'm happy that I have contributed to one of the lessons, although he has not discussed it with me, which he pointed out in the book. Very strategic issue that came up, and we had to take it and state it as we also got it from the field. But certain issues that came up really are so strategic, and you have to understand what the media would like to know and probably what you will relate on the ground, what is happening. And I know after this I will talk to him, we will discuss, and I will tell him the strategic reasons, what happened, and how it could have changed the whole narrative if we had succeeded, that particular incident. Now let me commend you for a very good book. I attempted to make my donation through the online transfer, but I think the network was fluctuating. It's not going through. But I will let you know, I will send it and let you know privately. Congratulations.
When the donation is private, it's very big. We thank you, General Tukur Buratai. Please.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the chairman of the occasion, all protocol duly observed. On behalf of Jigawa State Government, we donate 10 million naira for 10 copies. Thank you.
Thank you. Jigawa State Government, 10 million naira for 10 copies. Dr. MB Shehu is buying 10 copies for 500,000 naira. Mallam Garba is buying 2 copies for 200,000 naira. The immediate past chairman of APC, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, is buying 5 copies for 5 million naira. And so we'll the floor is still open as I welcome here General Abayomi Gabriel Lonishakin, former Chief of Defense Staff, to please step forward here.
the chairman of the occasion, Your Excellency, General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, former head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, represented by Dr. Umar Madibo. I request the permission of the chairman to adopt the already established protocol so as to deliver a good message within the assigned time. I'm highly honored to be part of this momentous occasion, and particularly for the privilege given to me to give a goodwill message on the presentation of the book, According to the President, Lessons from a Presidential Spokesperson Experience, written by Mallam Garba Shehu, former presidential spokesperson to former President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. This book offers a unique and authoritative glimpse into the various achievements of Muhammadu Buhari administration in security, the economy, transport, health, and social welfare, and indeed foreign affairs, particularly in the West African sub-region, among others, sharing valuable insights and lessons from the author's experiences as his presidential spokesperson. I must appreciate once again the immediate past president, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, for the unique opportunity given to my colleague and I, who had the privilege of serving our great nation at the peak of military leadership under his administration. This unique opportunity presents us with invaluable experiences that we have, some of which are documented in the book by Mallam Garba Shehu. Your Excellencies, distinguished invited guests, permit me to mention some notable and impactful areas that were not properly in the public space, which I am privy to because of my last appointment in the military. In the military sphere, the success achieved in Operation Restore Democracy in the Gambia in 2017, which resolved the succession crisis in the Gambia, was a masterpiece and a demonstration of the leadership and democratic tenacity of former President Muhammadu Buhari, which deserves special commendation. Secondly, the support to the armed forces of Nigeria in the acquisition of the much-needed equipment under the direct government-to-government purchase, thereby removing middlemen involvement, was very inspiring and commendable. Another notable achievement under former President Muhammadu Buhari, for which the armed forces of Nigeria will be eternally grateful, is the commencement of payment of security debarment allowance and other welfare-related packages, and the approval of the retirement age of members of the armed forces to 60 years or 35 years of service, whichever comes first, as against 56 years before his administration. Indeed, time will not permit me to chronicle all the achievements and progress made in the military under the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. I had the privilege of proudly wearing the Nigerian Army uniform for 48 years, from age 12 as a boy soldier from the Nigerian Military School Zaria until my retirement as a general in 2021. There is the old saying that old soldiers never die. A soldier will always keep tab of happenings in the military, even in retirement. It is on this premise that I must use this opportunity to thank His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for the continuous encouragement and immense support for the armed forces of Nigeria. We members of the armed forces, both serving and retired,
appreciate the confidence in our capacity to continue to contribute to the success of your administration. I stated earlier that time will not permit me to chronicle the several achievements in the military during the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Neither can all his achievements be contained in one book. I must, however, commend and appreciate the effort of the author, Mallam Garba Shehu, for his dedication to documenting the achievements of former President Muhammadu Buhari in a book that will serve as one of the authoritative reports of administration achievement and a veritable learning tool for current and future generations. This book will undoubtedly inspire, educate, and inform in making it a valuable resource for those interested in politics, leadership, and public service. Once again, I commend the author while also wishing His Excellency, former President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, good health and happiness. The country will continue to appreciate his fatherly contribution to our dear nation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, General. People's Media Limited, buying one copy for 100,000 naira. Mallam Garba Shehu, one copy for 50,000 naira. Salisu Ibrahim Muhammad, 3 copies for 250,000 naira. Hadi Uba, 2 copies for 100,000 naira. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations also sent a message. Can we take that now? The message from Her Excellency Hajia Amina Mohammed, CFR.
Your Excellency Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency Major General Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, Your Excellency General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, it is a pleasure to join you today to reflect on the legacy of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari through the lens of former presidential spokesman Garba Shehu, who gave voice to the messages and milestones of his administration. I had the honor of serving under his leadership, first under the Petroleum Trust Fund and then as a Minister of Environment. Through both national and international service, I have come to know President Buhari as a leader who believed deeply in integrity, discipline, responsibility, and in a prosperous and unified and peaceful Nigeria. His expectations were simple but firm: service to the nation above self. That example mattered, especially for those of us he entrusted with public responsibility. As minister, I experienced firsthand the space he gave his team to lead. His support for our work on the environment and climate gave Nigeria a stronger voice in global conversations and reinforced the idea that Africa can lead, not just follow, on issues that shape our future. At the United Nations, I saw the same approach to international cooperation. Whether the conversation was about regional security, humanitarian responses, or sustainable development, President Buhari consistently advanced Nigeria's priorities and Africa's broader interests. Throughout his time in office, the strength and support of his family were a steady presence behind the scenes. Their contribution to his public life, though often unspoken, deserves recognition. President Buhari's legacy is of discipline, restraint, and principled leadership. His calm strength, his sense of order, and his unwavering dedication to Nigeria's stability and unity continue to resonate beyond his time in office. It was a privilege and honor to walk part of that journey with him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The man who has been flying Nigeria on the wings of excellence the chairman of Air Peace, Chief Allen Onyema, is here. I welcome you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're welcome. Brigadier General M.B. Marwa, retired, CON OFR, is supporting and buying 5 copies of the book for 500,000 naira. Do I invite you to the microphone for your own donation? Let me welcome Chief Allen Onyema, please, to the microphone. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. I just walked in. I feel highly privileged to be invited to honor one of the greatest Nigerians ever lived. I remember as a secondary school student at the Government College, Ueli, in 1970, during the civilian regime, when one of the neighboring countries tried Nigeria, our dear president, as the GOC, I think he was in Jos then, in his patriotic and nationalistic drive, went after that country. We as students, secondary school students then, some of us adopted his name as our nickname. So I feel highly privileged to come here today to be part of this occasion. I told myself that nothing else would ever stop me from coming because I revere the man and all he stood for in life. I therefore would like to have maybe 20 copies of this book for 300 million naira to support everything about President Muhammadu Buhari. Thank you very much.
You know, when you mentioned it, you gave the author a peace of mind. 300 million naira from the chairman of Air Peace. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for being part of it, but our vice chairman is still in the house. He's a very patient man. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. So I'd like to welcome you to the microphone to move the vote of thanks and thank everybody who is here. The man that wakes us up with Arise News in the morning and make sure that we read this day every day.
Well, thank you so very much to the young MC. It's a privilege to thank all of you for making today a momentous day. The hall is still at least 70, 80% full a few hours after. I believe our first thanks is to our father, leader, former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, who has stayed here with us all through. I remember as a journalist meeting him in Warwick when he was on exile and interviewing him many years ago. I also remember that as a journalist, I was the last to interview then General Muhammadu Buhari as head of state. I was working for Time magazine in New York. After the interview, I flew to New York to have the interview published in 1985. So as we had laid out the interview, as it was those days, the editor of Time magazine called me. Said, "Do you think this interview will be published?" I said, "Yes." It has just been a coup in Nigeria.
So that was another momentous day for 25 years of Nigeria. So as with Garba Shehu, we are all witnesses to history. And Garba is told a story of his witness statement using the eyes of Buhari today. Garba is a formidable journalist who has gone through hell and high water and climbed to the mountain top in the service of Nigeria. He has his panache, he has his determination. He's been everything. He's been head of Nigeria Union of Journalists, president of the Guild of Editors, publisher, and it all. But his best is yet to come. So I thought we should use this occasion to thank everybody who has been here, except that I have not heard of Ogbeni Raf. Are you coming to say something? Your silence is deafening. Anyway, you have not spoken, but there was a very fitting end to the donation of the Man of Peace, Air Peace, to advance the cause of reading. And my good friend of 50 years, the ever-present Mallam Garba from Kano, who is a classmate of Garba Shehu. I'm sure that writing books is a very important aspect of our history. Because today, as you heard Boss Mustafa, heard Gambari, heard everybody. And looking back, using the power of hindsight, you can begin to see that Nigeria is making strides, even if slowly. So we should give ourselves a round of applause for coming this far and continue to work for Nigeria. Like it or not, we are one of the greatest countries on earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will pay very special tribute to two persons here before we wrap up. The representative of the Vice President, thank you for your patience. Thank you for staying here. But let me first and foremost say to our chairman, a 91-year-old man. He has been here for over 3 hours. Everybody here has left, but he's still here. Let's thank you very much. Let's appreciate him. Thank you, sir. The 15th Emir of Kano, we love you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you. So we love all of you, and thank you for coming on behalf of this man and our former president. I said it at the very beginning, it's so difficult if you are not in power to gather people for a thing like this. But for the credibility of the president and this man, we are all here. God bless all of you. Shall we all rise for the national anthem? Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. God bless you. Thank you.
My brother Jones okay, everything is okay.
Amen.